All right, guys, couple highlights from Greatstockpix.com's live trading chat room. From Wednesday, June 13th, that's not right. Thursday, June 13th. I know what day it is. And hopefully I can provide a couple nice explanations of what was going on when the trades were made or were called. NDAQ, now this is something didn't even have on watch, and it just goes to show that if you're in front of a screen all day, setups can manifest out of nowhere. Something you weren't even watching, your scanners might pick up something. And as far as scanners go, I didn't see this one, but the chat room itself is a bit of a scanner because I think it was Dana, one of our All-Stars, that posted this, but I'm not positive. I hate to give credit to the wrong person, but anyway, you had this volume spike, and somebody, like I said, posted the news that the NDAQ is thinking about going private. Now, usually that's good news, but because it was already hitting new highs for the day and had been grinding, I just went ahead and waited to see what was going to happen, and then it put in this red candle. Now I really like it if it takes out the high of this big volume candle. So this isn't like a chart pattern or trading skill, really. These are simple trades. They're either going to work or they're not, but they're simple in that there's really no chart formation here. It's, it had news that might get it going. You can see the volume. Sellers came in, but on lower volume, and didn't take out the lows of the volume candle. Now, I mean, we've all, if you traded any length of time, we've all seen a big push like this and a nasty reversal, right? The fact that this is already hitting new highs for the day, though, and you had the 200 on fives right here, just was enough to keep me from calling it. It didn't meet what we call our Tokyo parameters, and you've seen some of our videos, you already know what that is, but it was already hitting new highs. If this was down here and you still had the high update to the left, I probably would have called it right there on this green candle. Anyway, sat on my hands for a bit, and then when I put in this red candle, then I felt comfortable saying, hey, if this takes out this high now, that good news is probably going to catch on and this stock's going to catch on fire. So the call I made was 31.98. Again, nothing tricky here. It's pretty simple. If it takes out the high of the day, right? If it takes out the high of this big volume, based on the news, it's probably going to get going. Now, what if it doesn't? What if it takes out the high and just rolls over? Well, you always have a stop in place, and this is as simple as it gets. I'm going to go long a break of this high volume candle. I'm going to put my stop below this high volume candle. Okay. So if it just rolls over from here, I'm not even in it. Anyway, okay, 31.98, 31.70 stop. And right there's the trigger. So we're in, and the stop's at 31.70. And about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes later, I'm at a break-even stop, sold a few, and it just kept grinding higher. Of course, the market was grinding higher too, but this thing went to, and I sold the rest literally at the top here, because we had about, maybe right there, we had about 15 minutes, 10 minutes left, and I told everybody, all right, I'm cleaning out my positions for the day. So that was the rest right there. And it was a nice trade. 31.98, went to 32.74, 76 cent move on 28 cents risk. But 28 cents risk is a little bit deceiving because that was my worst case. But once it triggered, you can see we were never underwater, and those are my favorite trades. I'm going to jump around a little bit because we're still in kind of a trial chat room right now where we don't have all the features like recording and stuff, the announcements tab. So I'm going to try to get in the habit of recording calls in there so I can make a more comprehensive end of day video, because there were a lot of calls in there by some All-Stars that I don't have in front of me now with the exact numbers. So I'm just going to give you an overview of some of those because there were still some really nice calls. Actually, B-Turks, one of our All-Stars, we all saw GCI today. I think some people in the chat probably had it down here, but B-Turk had an interesting call because you had the early high here at 25.69. It came up to 25.69. So you literally have two touches of the high of day, and then he was watching it on this pullback and took it right by this green line here. My numbers might be off by a few pennies, so bear with me. I'm not, if anyone sees this video and says, hey, B-Turk didn't call it there, it was 3 cents different, I'm not being deceitful. I just don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I know he took it at this green line. So the entry was basically 25.28, and I know he said his stop was at 25.05. And look at this little flag down to that. That green line represents the 8-period moving average on 15-minute candles, even though these are my 5-minute charts. And watch the turn here. And from 25.28, doesn't stop out, and ends up almost closing at the high of the day, but goes to, it doesn't look like much because it was such a big gap, but it went to 26.75. So $1.47 in our favor, 23 cents risk, and a great call by B-Turk. Nucor, I pointed out to the group, met one of our Between the Greens plays. When it looked like this, I said NUE, Between the Greens. Now, this wasn't an official call, but to me, it's a good trading lesson, so I'm going to share it, and then I'll probably, I'll show a couple other calls from today too. But what I mean by Between the Greens, and I've said this in other videos, you see these two green lines here? That circle, the top and the bottom is touching both green lines. That area is where we look to buy something that's really strong. And you can see Nucor gapped down this morning. These are 5-minute candles and just kept climbing and climbing. So when it came down, I typed in Nucor Between the Greens. And that just means it's between the 8 and the 20 on 15-minute candles. And these green lines represent that, even though these are 5s. 24 and 60 on 5s equate to the 8 and the 20. And I'll switch to 15s and show it to you. Oftentimes, when you have a really strong stock, that is what we call a buy zone, okay, between the 8 and the 20. And I kind of like that rather than being stuck on, an exact price of a moving average. I like this area and thinking of it as a buy zone. And then you can switch to lower time frame candles and look for an entry. And I mean, it gave a very clean candlestick setup, right? All these reds and a nice little narrow green candle. There's the lawn, there's the stop, and moved up by, 70, 80 cents from there. That was not an official call, but I just wanted to share with you what we mean by Between the Greens. Now, KNDI was in our video. I can't type. Was in our video last night as a potential bounce play. And KNDI, this is the daily. It's that crazy chart. But when it started to come up here, when it looked like this, I called it at 640. It was in the 630s probably when I called it. I think I called it at 640 with a stop at 620, and there was the trigger. And then we get through the high of the day, and then people started to find it, right? KNDI, and started to chase it, and we were selling into that. So I think it went to 690, but from 640, that's a 50-cent move on a $6 stock. That's a very nice percentage gain. So that was a nice, easy trade there. Oh, another good trading lesson here. Lulu. And I said this in our after hours video for the members of Greatstockpix.com as well. The old saying, the early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. That holds very true in trading a lot, okay? Lulu was on the list last night. Take today's candle out, and you can see it had those two big down days, so I had it on bounce watch. Let me go to 2-minute candles here and show you what I mean by the early bird and the second mouse and all that. Lulu had this really tight base. This is the opening high. I think this is a pretty good trading lesson right here. There's the opening high. Remember, I have this on bounce watch because it's so beaten up. Then you have this really nice tight base. Okay? So my thinking is, hey, I'll get our chat room in before everybody else. When we break this base, we're probably going to get through the high of the day, and people will start piling in. Lulu, they'll say, hey, I knew it was overdone to the downside. Shorts will start covering, and let me show you what happened. So my entry was 64.80 something with a stop at 64.40 something. Because you have to play this one a little wider because it's Lulu. So anyway, look at this. There's the trigger. We actually took out the new high of day. See the volume, and I'm feeling like a genius, thinking, hey, I'm making everybody a bunch of money, and 5 minutes later it's down there stopping out and just didn't get going. Now, thank God for Stephen B., one of our All-Stars, because, and this is what I mean by the early bird, sometimes being the first on a break or the first on a reversal, and I'll show you something along those lines too, is not good in trading. Sometimes that first one gets thwarted. Now this was just nasty action because you got the early range, right? Then you get the high of day break, and then look what it does. It comes down and takes out the low of the day. We call that a stop run. I mean, look at where the early low was, and then look right where it comes down to, right below that, reverses, and that was the low of the day. So that's kind of nasty, but that's what happened. Stephen B. called it over this base. And if you've heard any of my videos and you heard me talking about bounce plays, I typically want them to trigger in the afternoon. So in a way, you could argue that I broke my own rule by taking this early. And then the afternoon trigger makes much more sense. And then Stephen B. So I don't have the exact numbers. It was maybe around 64.80. You got a 2-minute move to 65.20 and actually went much higher than that. It went almost to 67. So Stephen B.'s call much better than mine. And if you notice, that was the second break. And real quick, I didn't call this one KORS, but it's a great example of if you're looking for a reversal here, and some guys traded this, you get this nasty sell-off. Look what happens when it breaks a 5s high. Right back down. Now this one ends up being the low of the day, and you got a really nice move. You can even see it on 2-minute candles better. This first bounce, right back down through the lows of the day. This second bounce, the candlestick setup, and it's off to the races. So remember that when trading. Oftentimes it's something, you want to be that first group on a reversal, the first group on a breakout. Maybe hesitate, stop yourself and say, you know what? If it goes now, it'll just go without me. I'm going to wait for a secondary setup. Those work so much better. As a general rule, nothing works every time. All right, anyway, I'm running out of time here, but I also called Mako, which is a thinner stock, but I just called it over this little tight base here, thinking it would get through the high of the day because I like the daily chart. I think my call was 1225 or 1226 with a stop around 1220. Those numbers might not be exact, and you can see what it did. It went to 1255, and the daily chart on Mako looks pretty good still. Oh, and then MYGN, this is what I talked about a little bit ago. Remember I said that oftentimes that initial move, you never know. Now, that's actually not the case with MYGN. Let me switch to twos here, if you can see it. Yeah, look at this. MYGN had news, and you got that initial down move. I said earlier in the video I was going to show you that the first move can be, I don't generally jump on shorts the way I do longs for those Tokyo trades, but just think if you saw this, you deemed the news was bad, and somebody, I promise you, shorted this at 32.80 thinking it's going to drop another $5, and look what happens. Within 2 minutes, this is at 35.40, and someone's in a lot of pain, and it's probably the same guy who covered here. Not covered. Yeah, covered here, and maybe went long. So anyway, anything can happen. But MYGN, the reason I bring this up too is one of our All-Stars, Serendib, and I don't know exactly where, but he shorted this somewhere up in here, and man, he got a great call there too. So he's kind of our room shorting expert. But you know what? I've babbled way too long. Hopefully some decent trading lessons in that. If not, I tried. I'll quit babbling. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.